He was a titan of industry, the kind of man whose name opened doors and whose signature could shift markets. His net worth alone could buy the entire city block, level it, and rebuild it in glass and steel. He lived in a rarefied world where power was currency, and he possessed it in terrifying abundance. She was a waitress, a law student, a young woman caught in the relentless grind of New York survival. Her days were crammed with lectures and late nights over case law. Her evenings swallowed by the unforgiving rhythm of serving the city's wealthiest in one of its most exclusive restaurants. Her pockets were never quite deep enough, because every spare dollar vanished into her younger brother's medical bills. Samuel's fragile lungs demanded treatments that insurance refused to fully cover. Their worlds should never have collided, yet they did. In the gilded dining room of the Seraphine, a restaurant as much a temple to excess as it was a place to eat. What followed would shatter the fragile armor she wore to get through each day, but also spark a chain of events that would threaten to unravel everything he had built. The Seraphine's air was thick with wealth, almost visible in the shimmering candlelight bouncing off cut crystal and polished mahogany. It smelled of truffle oil, aged leather, and the delicate perfume worn by women who had never known a day of sweat and hard labor. The kind of place where menus had no prices, because anyone who had to ask couldn't belong. For Olivia Vance, it was a smell of survival. Every night, she donned the restaurant's severe black uniform, its sharp lines designed to erase individuality, turning waitstaff into interchangeable shadows. Outside these walls, she was vibrant, a law student chasing the promise of a better future. But inside, she was a ghost, silent, efficient, and forgettable. Her smile was practiced, a mask stretched across exhaustion. Her mind, however, was never still, even as she glided between tables, balancing trays with unerring precision. She calculated tuition deadlines, the next round of Samuel's medication, the cold math of survival. Every tip meant another week of hope. And tonight, the pressure pressed harder. That morning, she'd received a letter from the hospital. Its polite, clinical language masked a brutal reality. Pay $1,000 within days, or Samuel's treatment would halt. Her heart had carried that weight into the restaurant, where she forced herself to smile, to glide, to endure. That was when he walked in. Silas Blackwood. Even if you didn't know his name, you knew him. He carried an aura that bent the room around him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a face carved from granite and weathered by storms of his own making. He moved not like he owned the place, but like he owned the very concept of places. His suit was a charcoal masterpiece, likely worth more than Olivia's car, and his every gesture radiated cultivated menace. Flanking him were Gavin and Troy, two younger men dressed in equally expensive suits but lacking the same predatory stillness. They circled him like pilot fish, their laughter too loud, their sycophancy too eager. They were men who mistook proximity for power. The restaurant's manager, Mr. Henderson, a man who usually strutted with military stiffness, melted instantly into obsequiousness. Mr. Blackwood, an honor as always, he gushed, leading them toward table 7. The crown jewel of the Seraphine, a secluded corner booth with a breathtaking view of the city's glittering skyline. Olivia's stomach sank. Table 7 was hers. She had served Blackwood once before, and it had been a nightmare. He was infamous among staff, condescending, impossible to please, and a notoriously stingy tipper. He didn't raise his voice or throw tantrums. No, his cruelty was colder than that. He treated service staff like defective machinery, dismissing them with cutting remarks that lingered long after he was gone. "Deep breaths, Liv," Chloe, another waitress, whispered as she passed by with a tray of champagne flutes. "Smile, nod, and think of Samuel. You got this." Olivia nodded, forcing her lips into a smile, and approached the table. "Good evening, gentlemen," she said evenly, notepad in hand. "My name is Olivia, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with some water? Still sparkling or artesian?" Blackwood didn't glance up from his phone. "Still, no lemon. Ice on the side. 3 cubes. Exactly. And don't hover." Gavin and Troy snickered. Her smile didn't falter. "Of course, sir." The evening became a masterclass in humiliation. Blackwood sent back a $900 bottle of Chateau Margaux, declaring it corked. though the sommelier had found it flawless. He sneered at his steak for being a degree too cool in the center. He discussed Olivia in the third person, as though she were invisible, telling his companions that the quality of help these days was declining. "It's about value," he pontificated, swirling his second glass of wine. "In my world, non-performing assets are eliminated. You don't reward mediocrity. You cut it. From billion-dollar acquisitions to the person pouring your water, the principle is the same." Heat climbed up Olivia's neck, but she swallowed it down. Samuel's smile flashed in her mind, her shield against the rising tide of rage. For him, she could endure anything. She moved with flawless efficiency, refilling glasses, clearing plates, her mask unbroken. But as the night drew to its close, desserts cleared, a final round of scotch served. The moment came. Olivia set the leather-bound bill folder on the table. The total, $2,478.50. Her heart pounded. A 20% tip, even a modest one, would cover the hospital's demand. Hope flickered, fragile but bright. Blackwood let the bill sit untouched for 10 agonizing minutes, as if its existence were beneath him. Then, with a sigh loud enough to command the room's attention, he opened it. His lip curled. His eyes, cold metallic gray, lifted to hers for the first time all evening. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled a single crisp $1 bill from his wallet. He placed it on the tray. Then he stood. "Sir," Olivia asked softly, dread twisting her gut, "is everything all right with the bill?" He laughed, a brittle sound like cracking ice. "The bill is for services rendered," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly hushed dining room. "It implies a service was provided." He gestured lazily toward her, a flick of the wrist more insulting than any curse. "What I received tonight was not service. It was a series of barely competent actions performed by someone who adds no value whatsoever." Then, louder, for everyone to hear, "I don't pay for worthless assets." And she, his gaze seared into her, is worthless. The word detonated in the silence. Worthless. It hung in the air, heavy and poisonous, as if etched into the polished wood and fine crystal. Every fork froze midair. Every whisper died. All eyes turned to table 7, to the check, the single dollar, and the young waitress standing paralyzed beside them. Olivia felt the ground drop out from beneath her. Her chest tightened, her breath hitching in a painful gasp. The armor she wore every night, the professional mask, the carefully cultivated detachment, shattered. This wasn't just an insult. It was an execution, a verdict. Her cheeks burned crimson as humiliation crawled over her skin. She felt dozens of stares piercing her. Pity, curiosity, judgment. Mr. Henderson rushed forward, his face a rictus of panic. "Mr. Blackwood, sir." "Please," he babbled. "If there's a problem, we'll resolve it immediately." Blackwood paused, his expression one profound irritation, as if he were being harassed by a mosquito. "The problem, Henderson, is incompetence. I came here for a premier dining experience. Instead, I was subjected to amateur hour, the wine mishandled, the food served without enthusiasm, and a waitress who has no business in an establishment of this caliber." His smirk returned. "I am leaving $1, a symbolic payment for the water she managed not to spill. Consider it a lesson in market value. Send the bill for the food to my office. I'll pay for that, but not for the so-called service. And certainly not a tip." Mr. Henderson's spine dissolved. He wrung his hands, nodding frantically. "Of course, Mr. Blackwood. Absolutely. Please be our guest tonight. No need to pay for anything. We value your patronage far too much." He was writing off $2,478.50 to appease a bully. Olivia's stomach lurched. Her manager hadn't just failed to defend her. He'd validated the insult, offering her up as a sacrifice to protect his own skin. Blackwood gave a curt nod, savoring his victory. A wise decision. That's how you handle a non-performing asset. And with that, he swept out, his entourage trailing in his wake, leaving only silence and a single dollar bill gleaming mockingly on the tray. For a long, unbearable moment, silence clung to the dining room like smoke. Forks hovered in the air. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. The only sound was a faint clink of a spoon being hastily set down at a distant table. Olivia stood frozen, staring at the single-dollar bill that glared up at her like a verdict. Her hands trembled, her vision blurred. Humiliation was a physical weight, pressing her chest until she could barely breathe. She felt everyone's eyes on her, pitying, sympathetic, some even smug. The pity burned worst of all. "Olivia!" Mr. Henderson hissed through clenched teeth, his smile fixed for the benefit of the other diners. "Clear the table. Now!" Her body moved on autopilot, numb and mechanical. She reached for the bill, but her fingers faltered. The crisp paper seemed to scorch her skin. That $1 wasn't money. It was a brand burned into her, worthless. Worthless! The word reverberated in her skull, louder than the clinking glasses, louder than the whispering voices swelling back to life around her. Some patrons turned away quickly, ashamed to be caught staring. Others lingered, curiosity outweighing decency. "Poor thing," someone whispered. "She'll never live that down." "She is slow, though," another voice murmured, and Olivia's stomach dropped further. She stumbled into the service corridor, her tray clattering against the counter as she set it down. Her breathing came in shallow gasps. Her hands gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. "Liv." It was Chloe, her friend and fellow waitress, eyes wide with fury. He had no right to... "Don't," Olivia whispered, her throat raw. "Please don't. I can't." She couldn't bear to hear the sympathy. "Not now." Mr. Henderson appeared, his expression stormy. "Olivia in my office. Now." Her stomach twisted. She followed, legs heavy as lead, into the cramped back office lined with filing cabinets and a perpetually broken fan. Henderson closed the door sharply. "Do you have any idea who that man was?" he hissed. Her voice cracked. "I know exactly who he is." "Then you should have tried harder," Henderson snapped. "Men like Mr. Blackwood are the lifeblood of this establishment. One complaint from him could destroy our reputation. You embarrass him." Her head jerked up. "I embarrass him?" Henderson's glare hardened. "You will not raise your voice at me. Effective immediately, you're suspended without pay. If Mr. Blackwood demands it, you'll be terminated." The ground tilted beneath her. "Suspended? You're lucky it's not worse." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I need this job. I can't." "Then you should have thought of that before you failed to meet expectations." Henderson's words were final, cold. "Now get out." She stumbled out into the night air, the city's neon glare stabbing at her tear-stained eyes. She walked blindly, the sound of Blackwood's voice echoing in her skull. Worthless. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital, reminding her of the overdue balance. Another buzz, her landlord's warning about late rent. The world pressing on her, suffocating. She sank onto a bench, pressing her palms into her eyes, but the tears came anyway. For the first time in years, Olivia felt truly broken. She didn't notice the man watching her from across the street. Sterling Kane. Where Blackwood was a predator cloaked in shadow, Sterling was light refracted through glass. Sharp, precise, impossible to ignore. His suits were tailored in bold navy and ivory, a subtle rebellion against the gray uniformity of Wall Street. His smile, when it appeared, was rare but devastating. And unlike Blackwood, Sterling had noticed her. He had been at the Seraphine that night, dining with a client in the corner. He had witnessed the entire spectacle. He had seen the $1 bill, the smirk on Blackwood's face, the devastation in Olivia's eyes. And something in him, something he didn't entirely understand, had snapped. "Rough night." The voice startled her. Olivia looked up, blinking through her tears, and found herself staring at a man she recognized vaguely from the restaurant. Tall, striking, with eyes the color of storm-tossed seas. Her voice faltered. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," he said smoothly, slipping his hands into his pockets. Sterling Kane. Her stomach dropped. That's Sterling Kane, Blackwood's rival. Another titan of finance, though one known for charm where Blackwood wielded fear. She stood abruptly wary. "If you're here to gloat..." "Gloat." His brow arched. No, to offer you something. Her laugh was bitter. Unless you can pay off hospital bills and tuition, I'm not interested. Actually, he said calmly, that's exactly what I'm offering. She froze. What? I saw what happened in there, Sterling said, his voice low, deliberate. Blackwood thinks he destroyed you, but what he doesn't understand is that I find value where he sees none. Her pulse quickened. Why? Why would you care? Because nothing infuriates Silas Blackwood more than someone he tried to break rising higher than he ever expected. Sterling's smile was razor-sharp. And because I think you're far from worthless. Olivia stared, caught between suspicion and fragile hope. The days that followed blurred. Sterling pulled strings she hadn't known existed. Her brother's hospital bills vanished. An anonymous benefactor footing the balance. Her tuition, once a mountain she could never climb, was suddenly manageable, a quiet scholarship materializing in her account. And then there was the job offer, not as a waitress, but as his assistant, working inside the gleaming tower of Kane International. Why me? She asked, the first day she stepped into his office, still half afraid she'd wake to find a dream. Sterling's eyes met hers across the expanse of glass and chrome. Because Blackwood marked you as worthless, and I intend to prove him wrong. News of Olivia's rise spread quickly through the corridors of power. Whispers followed her. The waitress who had caught Sterling Kane's attention, the girl Blackwood had humiliated who now walked the halls of wealth. And when Blackwood himself finally saw her again, not in a uniform, but in a sleek suit, standing confidently beside Sterling Kane at a high-stakes negotiation, his face had darkened with recognition. The war between titans had gained a new battleground, and Olivia Vance was no longer a ghost in the shadows of the Seraphine. She was the spark that would ignite everything.